On this episode of 90 Feet Away, we're joined by Joe Ferraro. Joe is an English teacher, a speech teacher, an ex-baseball coach, a wine and food connoisseur, and just an incredible communicator. Stay tuned. This is going to be great. We'll see you in a bit. Welcome back to 90 Feet Away. I am joined by one of my favorite human beings that inhabits this earth. Today, a personal friend to me, little brother kind of to me, a mentor to hundreds, probably thousands of young people through the years, including my own children. Please help me welcome Joe Ferraro to 90 Feet Away today. Joe, thanks for being here.
It is a true pleasure, and I know we say that on podcasts all the time, but this one's different, and I really couldn't thank you more for having me.
No, I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. Joe and I met probably about 17, 18 years ago. He actually was my son's modified baseball coach at Valhalla High School in New York. And the type of guy, the type of personality I kind of fell in love with right away. You know, as a parent, especially as a parent of a baseball dad or a baseball family, whenever you can kind of just sit back, not say anything, and admire what the coach is doing, hat is always off to that guy, and Joe was that guy. Joe, I want to find out about early Joe. I want to find out a lot more about Joe Ferraro before I met Joe. I want to know who Joe was growing up outside of Philadelphia. I don't want to start like at the formative years, but I do want to start at like 10, 11, 12-year-old Joe. Tell me about that, kid.
How about some snapshots as someone who's a father of a 14-year-old son who a lot of people say remind them of me, and a daughter 11 years old that a lot of say remind of my wife. I know that's typical, traditional, whatever, but there's some truth to it. So I get to see him and be all different, not a baseball player. I get to see her, a soccer player, and I think back. So the conversations I have with my son remind me of kind of a next level, more tech savvy 2.0 version of the conversations I had with my father. My dad, as we record, is probably making a Western omelet somewhere in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. He's 77 years old, and he's still at it 7 days a week at the restaurant that he owns by the name of Cafe Ferraro. So you know a bit about that, putting your name on something and being proud of it. That was something I saw every day. And he would bring me into the kitchen, and my job was to make bagels, toast, English muffins while he was making the omelets. Eric, he would beat me to the counter with the omelet as I'm still struggling to get the bagel going. And the kind of guy my dad was, the toaster was this sterling silver monster. And the bagels he's squishing down because he didn't take enough out because they're a little bit frozen, and he's trying to get them warmed up, and I'm putting them in. The thing's burning. He takes a knife and stabs it into the toaster. I'm like, what are you doing? We're like, this is 75,000 volts in a cafe. He's like, it's fine. Get moving. And I'm thinking, I can't do this. I cannot do this. And to his credit, he knew I couldn't do it. He didn't want me to do it. It wasn't going to the family business. In fact, he would say things like, I want you to use this and not this, and point to his back or point to his wrist where he was making an omelet. He always encouraged whatever curiosity or intellectual side or academic side. And that cafe helped put 3 kids through high school and college. And those were places of conversation. The other place, as you well know, is the baseball field, right? So we were having conversations about life, about creativity, whether I knew it or not. Questions like, if a guy tags somebody out at second and the ball goes flying out of his glove and the center fielder catches the ball in the air, is that still an out because it never touched the ground? In football, that would be a catch. That's the things that my dad reminds me of the kind of conversations we had. And I told Joey just yesterday, my son, I had a book of colleges this thick. I was going to the University of Texas because they had everything I wanted. It was baseball. It was the best in the business. It had the communications. It had it all. And I would just read that book and kind of think about that journey. And spoiler alert, it didn't happen. I wasn't good enough to play at Texas, but I did okay. And I think, that's just a small portion of 12-year-old Joe. Little League, trying to go to Williamsport, the whole thing.
So, like most young men, your father was incredibly instrumental in forming what we now know as Joe Ferraro. Your father's work ethic, the love of baseball, the love of bonding. What makes me happy in 77-year-old Joe, you still have that to this day. I know, like, probably a day doesn't go by you guys don't talk, and it's not like you live around the corner. Do you feel that same type of relationship now with your son, with Junior? Because he is a different kid. He's not the athletic kid that possibly you were. And please forgive me for saying this. At 14, he's probably already starting to be better than you.
In so many ways. Couple thoughts there. First, mom was at the kitchen table, making the lunches, driving us to school, supporting that lifestyle. So as we're traveling, listen, I know this now. We're a beach family, right? We're going all over the country when we can in the summer. Guess who didn't do that? The Ferraros, because this guy didn't realize it then. My dad's dragging me all over. Well, let's rephrase that. I'm asking him to drag me all over to play in a tournament in Shamokin. Now we have the privilege of not doing that because of the competitive schedule, and there's a place for both. So have to acknowledge mom's role in that, and many will tell you any storytelling skill that I have comes from Roseanne Ferraro. That said, the bond I have with Joey is creative. I mean, he is now reading a book that was written by a podcast guest of mine about ratios in the kitchen, how to make bread, how to make pie crust. Last night, he drops the bomb that baking has become a top 3 or 4 possibility for his career. Earlier in the year, he told me he was thinking about applying to a technical school because he loved their graphic design program. Then he tells me he can't wait to impress the high school teachers and make a new impression on them by just being him. The kid is unique in that way. You've seen it. If you would have told 18-year-old Joe Ferraro, I would have said, I want to have a son who plays Division I baseball, and I'm going to teach him all the things I didn't know. Comes along, not a baseball player, and there hasn't been a single moment other than maybe his retirement ceremony when he was 5 years old, where he self-retired, saying, Dad, saying to my sister, I think they know I don't like baseball. There hasn't been a moment other than that day that I've regretted that he isn't an athlete.
That's amazing. Tell me about Joe Ferraro, the baseball player. Now, I know stories. I know you won the Legion World Series. I know that you went on to play at Division I Pace University. Back then, Pace University was a Division I college. How good were you, Joe?
Great high school player. Very average college player. That's the shortest version I can give you. I was the second or third best player on the team all the way through 9 years old up to and including the American Legion National Championship in 1996. I mean that with respect. There are definitely people better than me. I'm in that conversation for that second and third. I batted fifth, for example, and big RBI guy, that kind of thing. Played that final game against future major leaguer Ben Sheets on ESPN. My mom has 30 copies of the VHS. Like, I made it to that level. We were 48-12 that summer. I'll never forget, a mutual friend of ours said, yeah, I got a big summer plan this year. I go, how many games you playing? He said 25. I literally said, well, that was my June, so I'm not sure what you're saying. But I look back, and I was the guy that was like the all area, all golden team, one of 16 players in the county, and played in a really good prep school that just won the state title this year, and really a team guy and just passionate, just playing. Honestly, if I look back, playing baseball like a football player. I have friends that say, looking back, you were probably too intense. I don't know if I was. I don't know if that was like the way that I had to play, trying to make people better, try to be a coach on the field. Got to the Division I level. They're throwing not only curveballs, we know about that joke, but sliders and splitters, and it's 87 running in, and it's 12 degrees with wind chill here in New York, and I'm not allowed to have pants that fit me properly because my coach is 96 and doesn't have a sense of humor, and it's just never was a fit that way. Now, here's the thing, and you know this, I'm still on a thread with Pace University baseball guys. So sometimes I say I should have went to a Division III program, been an all-conference player, played in a World Series, been a 7-8 hitter there and really shined, whatever, maybe 5. And then sometimes I say I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So it's really hard for me to kind of regret it. I don't look around and saying I regret it because of where it's led me. But that's a bit of how I think about it.
You know, it's such a thoughtful way to put it. I mean, one of the things we talk about today, right? Fast forward to 2024, do you want to be the 34th player on a 35-man roster and play Division I, or do you want to be a dude? Do you want to walk in and try and be a dude on a D3 and have a shot to compete walking in the door? It really is a topic we talk about all the time with the guys that we're trying to help get there. So the fact that, you know, even now with a successful career and a successful life, going back to think that way is kind of interesting to me. We talked about your father. We talked about him kind of handing down the work ethic to you because you really become part of your environment. So I know how hard you work. I need to understand how a 21-year-old guy, fresh out of college, 21 years old, is made the head coach of a college program. How does that happen?
Head coach of a college program without any help from you yet. Because you helped me so much along the way. But that's the one time you can't put your fingerprints on the origin story. And everyone who listens to the show knows just how generous you are with your time, energy, and attention. But the truth of that story is I went back to the Pace University alumni game where they had just put in the plans to have a new coach, Hank Manning. And when he was getting to know me, who I didn't know at the time, never played for Hank, he says, "What are you up to?" I told him, "I'm a teacher. I'm looking to get into coaching." He goes, "Have you thought about college coaching?" I'm 21 years old. I may have been 20 if the alumni game, I guess I'm 21, about to be 22 because I'll be 22 in October. So I'm 21 years old and I'm talking to Hank. I said, I'm 21. Like I can't coach college. He's like, "There's a job open in the neighborhood." I go, what do you mean in the neighborhood? He goes, "I don't know." See, he just yells out to a random guy. He's like, "Isn't that job still open?" I'm in a whirlwind just trying to meet the coach. And he says, "No, I really think they need a coach like right away. Can you get this guy an interview?" And he yells to me and I go, whoa, I didn't even I'm just starting my career as a English teacher. And I said, "But just out of curiosity, where's the college?" And he goes, "Oh, Manhattanville." And I go, "Oh, the Jaspers, let's go, green and white." He starts laughing at me. I go, what? That's not it. He goes, No, it's Manhattanville. It's a smaller Division III school. I go, "I never heard of it." Like, just with all due respect, I went to school down the street, literally never heard of it. Now, I'm a Philadelphia guy. That's my only excuse, but I should have known. Didn't know about it. Long story short, he gets me an interview. I do a phone interview. The athletic director says, "Come in. We want to talk to you. It sounds good." We do a in-person interview. I'm laying out my philosophy. He likes it. He goes, "I'll tell you what, come back tomorrow night, meet the team. We need a coach desperately." I'm like, okay, I have back to school night, parent night with my brand new students. Like, I don't know if I can make it. He's like, "We'll do it at 9 p.m. You're good to go." So I'm just burning the candle at both ends. I go into this auditorium type place and I'm watching all the coaches like meet the coaches night. And then they're like, "And our last speaker is a potential candidate for the head coaching job." I stand up, like I'm looking out into the sea of people. I just give my spiel. One of the captains comes over to me and says, "All right, just give us a minute." He walks the team over into a corner of the auditorium. They link arms and huddle. I just hear whispering and muttering. They come back and they go, "All right, we're gonna hire you." I'm like, "Excuse me? This is it?" Like, "Yeah, we talked it over. We need a coach. We like your energy. Let's go for it." The next day I'm in the athletic director's office. He goes, "We're hiring you for the fall. We need you to put together a schedule starting today." I'm like, I just graduated. I don't know what a schedule is. I just told you I don't even know the name of the school. He goes, "We'll put you on a fall program. If it goes well, there'll be an opportunity to hire you in the spring." Now, in my mind, looking back, they were probably making calls all over the place to hire someone. I didn't realize that. I'm like, okay, I'm a college baseball coach now. By the way, part-time. We don't want to say the salary out loud because it would make people gasp. No dugouts. The dugout was a metal rusted red bench. So I guess in retrospect, when they started making those calls, they're like, who is going to work under these conditions for this salary part-time for a program that started 5-21 the year before you got here. And me, I'm thinking, I'm a big shot. I'm a college baseball coach now at 21 years old.
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. I know a lot of guys over the years that have played at a program and then they'll go on to get their master's degree. So they're kind of like a grad student at 21. They're a grad student, third or fourth assistant coach, so not the head coach. And I know how difficult that is just from a social aspect, right? You're coaching kids the same age as you. How difficult was that? Right, and older.
And I'll tell you a snapshot. We went to Florida the second year. That was important to the program. I couldn't rent the van. I wasn't allowed. I said, what do you mean I'm not allowed? I said, well, you got to be 25. I'm like, I can't rent the van for 3 to 4 years. We had players sign. This can't be legal. So if the NCAA is listening, this is fictional for legal purposes. We had players 25 or older signing the van lease because I wasn't allowed to. So I'm like in Florida in some backfield driving a van that I'm not even legally registered to. One of the players on the team, I think would have broken the internet if we knew this, was 41 years. Not if we knew it, if it was public. One of the players on the field was 41 years old, and he was a junior. And that story is a whole nother podcast, but he's 20 years older than the player, than the coach. And that dynamic, I mean, look, did I do a good job some days? You look back on it and you say, we did a lot of good things there, but my goodness, that's a lifetime ago. I'm sitting here now talking to you almost 47 years old, and you think back to that life. It was a challenging dynamic. I want to be respected. I want to be liked. I want to be friends. I want to be a recruiter. It's a lifetime ago, but I never tire thinking back to it. I tell you that.
Talk to me about the difference for you to go from playing baseball. It wasn't 20 years later. It was the next season.
Yeah.
Differentiating playing and now coaching. How easy or difficult was that transition where you were the 5 batter and now you're showing these kids what you just finished doing?
It was an interesting slope. So I'm a 5-hitter, really valuable player on an American Legion National Championship team. The following year, we go back to fall baseball. Now, even though it's Division I, the intensity level is like a Tuesday in a cafe, like nothing going on. Like I just played on ESPN and now we're like playing in a backfield somewhere and it's just horrific intensity. And then I'm a role player for the rest of my baseball career. So I'm kind of doubting myself in a little bit. Now I take over a Division III school, quite frankly, just no success up until that point. So the ego in me may be realistic looking at the players that are in front of me on this roster. And I'm like, well, I'm better than every player on the roster. But I still want to build them up. I still want to make them believe. And I'm thinking, well, if I know this about baseball and I experience this, can I give it to them? And some of the mistakes I think I make are, you then say, well, like, if we're going to bunt, let's do it this way. And you get in the box and you show them. And if we want to hit the ball the other way, we do it this way. And we get in the box and then we show them. And I think looking back, again, all these lessons make sense looking back. I don't know if that always works, right? The young coach, brash, played at a high level. You have to be really skilled as a communicator to say, I'm going to show you how easy this is or can be without them being like, dude, get lost. Like, I'm just trying to like finish my marketing degree, play a little ball and get out of here. So I think I had some really serious wins that way, but I think that was a little bit of what it was. It was a bit of a roller coaster.
You're jumping my gun a little bit by talking about communication. We'll get there. At what point did you decide you wanted to be a teacher, Joe?
September 1st, 1999.
Before that, you had no idea what you wanted to do?
I say that the date may be give or take a day or two, but that was my first day of student teaching. And my cooperating teacher was so good in so many specific ways that meshed with my personality. He literally taught the first lesson in 7th grade. And he said, how'd you think that went? And I go, oh, it's pretty cool. He goes, do you think you could do that? I go, I would love to try it. He goes, all right, you're on. And handed me chalk and whatever. And like, I'm teaching the second lesson of the first day. And I'm like, I could do this. Like, I like this. And he gave me feedback. Prior to that, I always thought like maybe a coach, maybe something in communications. When I met with the advisors at Pace, they were like, would you like to minor in something? I'm like, what can I minor in? They took me through it. One of the choices was education. I said to them, how much is required of that? They said 5 classes and 1 student teaching experience. I'm like, 5 classes and I'm a minor? I'm like, what if I don't do those 5 classes? They're like, well, you can just do them in anything. I'm like, wait. So I can either get a minor, which would make me more marketable, or just take film studies, basket weaving, geometry, whatever I'm interested in. She's like, yeah. I said, when's the student teaching? She said, senior year, the spring. I said, oh, I'm out. She said, what do you mean you're out? I go, well, it's baseball season. It's potentially my last season ever playing baseball. I'm not student teaching. She's like, yeah, but that would be your career on the line. I go, no, but you don't understand. Like, I need to finish what I started. Like, I'm not doing it. We end up negotiating, and she puts me into the fall in what she called an unprecedented move. She's like, all right, I'm going to let you student teach in the fall because you have a baseball commitment. And that had other ripple effects that were incredibly positive. But I wasn't the guy teaching stuffed animals, looking at the chalkboard, telling people I was going to teach. I was more the guy like looking at the teachers I had along the way and being like, I really don't like that style. I really like this style. And if I ever was working with people, I would do it more that way.
You know, one of the things I talk about a lot, right? I talk about it with my players. I talk about it with my coaches. You can't fake love and passion. Like, you just can't. You either wake up, I can't wait for my feet to hit the ground because this is what I got to get done today. Or you just kind of walk through life and I don't give a shit and I'm just going to collect a paycheck. Not because I love you, because you never taught me. But you've taught so many children down the road. You've impacted so many lives in an incredibly positive way. And you're a phenomenal baseball coach. You decided to walk away from coaching. And now this goes back to what you started in the communication. How I get through, how I speak to somebody. What kind of message am I trying to get through? How do I help this kid? This kid and this kid are different. So I have to figure out how I get into both of them. Joe, what makes you tick? After 23 years of teaching, you're now 47, self-proclaimed. I didn't want to bring up your age. 23 years, you can't fake love and passion. People do. I'm not a huge proponent of tenure for that reason. People grab tenure and they go on a cruise for the rest of their career. To me, that's horseshit. Nothing in life is promised. Nothing is guaranteed in any other career. And every day you challenge yourself on how to get better so that you can help more people. How did that start? And tell me more about it.
Well, first of all, thank you for those kind words. I know you wouldn't say it if you didn't mean it, so it means a lot. I'll give you an example. About an hour before we recorded, for whatever reason, today felt like the day to do this. And I don't typically think about the classroom until mid-August, again, because I need to refresh and clear the mind and fulfill some creative and professional goals along the way. I've been experimenting with an AI tool, which it's scary and unbelievable. And I typed in about, I'm going to make up a number, 500 to 700 words that I voice text into my computer. That basically the gist of which was, as I enter my 26th year in the classroom, I want to revisit, revitalize, re-examine, question daily routines, weekly routines, monthly routines. Here's a little bit about me and my philosophy. I'm still typing this into the prompt. Here's what my classroom looks like. Here's what I've had success with. Here's where I've had some struggles. Can you coach me with some new routines, ideas to be responsive to 21st century learners in ways that maybe I hadn't considered? And I hit send, and these tools are scary. A paragraph, 3 paragraphs popped out. Didn't even get a chance to read them yet because I wanted to prepare for this. That's a bit about who I am today, right? That's when I tell people that, sometimes people surprise me when they say, not a lot of people are doing that, right? And I don't mean that as a...
So my question, not to cut you off, is again, why? It's not August 1st. You have another month of vacation.
Yeah.
What is driving you in July? Self-proclaimed beach guy, want to be with the kids, want to spend time. What propels you to do that in July? Go.
So from a tactical standpoint, it's squeezing out the moments, right? It's like maybe there's two sides to this. I want to squeeze in moments where I can. I had Kai Correa on the show, and he's like, I'm watching a video on how to improve something in the shower. I kind of subscribe to that. I don't want to do it in the shower, thanks, Kai, but I want to do it where I can. I don't want to say, like, I can't start this till August 1st. I want to squeeze in a moment. So that's the tactical side for people. I think people wait too long for things, Eric. You know that. I mean, you're one of the guys that's very driven and quick from idea to impact. So can we call this dentist and cancel this? I'm going to do it right away. Like, let's not, when I get home, like, let's just get it done. Of course, you know that I can put things off as well. As far as the macro idea of why I'm doing that, I just don't think the job is done. I think that the people in front of us are trusting us. And I don't mean this to be in any kind of high and mighty way. It can be if I was a plumber, I feel like I would want to have a good relationship with that customer. I want them to say, that guy went above and beyond. That guy didn't cheat me. That guy literally cares about how he fit that pipe. And because I'm an educator and a communicator, I just have this mindset where I'm just like, I got to give more than I can. I don't know. I got to give more. There's more to give. I definitely selfishly, if you will, get excited about learning new things and impacting people and talking in front of people and that give me their attention. But as far as like the podcast being called 1% Better, like that became either, I don't know, the chicken and the egg story, but that became the mindset. It's like, how can I possibly go into year 26 and not try to be better than I was in year 25? I can't sleep at night if I do that. It doesn't mean I'm going to succeed every time.
But why are you the outlier, Joe? You realize it's not normal. You said your peer group has asked you why you're doing this. And this is what I'm saying. It's very easy for people to go on cruise control. The answer to me, I'm not answering this for you, is you are never satisfied. You're like me. You don't take time to reflect. I tell people I will reflect when I'm dead. I'm not looking back to say, oh, look what we did. What do I have to do today and then tomorrow and the next week? But you are impacting the next generation. You know, for the audience, I just got to tell you, I happened to be at a wedding last Friday night, and I was lucky enough to sit next to Joe and Dana. And the best man was, again, the best man was coached by Joe. The groom was coached by Joe. And the best man wasn't exactly the most fluent, comfortable speaker you've ever seen in your life. And the first thing he says to a crowd of, I'm going to say 180 people was, I wish I had taken Mr. Ferraro's speech class. Literally the first line out of his mouth, Joe perked up and was like, hey now, that's the impact you have even on kids you didn't coach or teach, Joe.
Well,
does that make you feel good? And I'm not talking about reflecting because you don't do it. This kid did not take your class. He's now almost 30 years old. And the first line out of his mouth was about your speech class.
There's a lot there, as usual. Thank you. It's true. Everything you said is true. I felt 2 inches taller after that, right? That's something I won't soon forget. We don't have time for the full pushback on me saying I don't reflect. We've had a number of conversations about this. I think the way we look at reflection is different. My version of reflection involves, as best I can, and I'm not always great at this, looking myself in a literal mirror or a metaphorical mirror and saying, was that the best we can do as a teacher? Like, did I provide the learning environment in year 2024 that can't be topped? Like, is that the best? Or is there more to wring out of that towel? And so often I come back and say, there's more to wring out of that towel. So I do think about reflection that way. Very simple question. What could I have done better? That's about as simple and as complicated as it has to be. As far as the impact or trying to get more, there are so many incredible teachers out there. There's a million answers to the question of why I am the way I am. I've seen teachers that pour themselves way more into the content than I do. But what I've learned from you and so many others is it's not a cliche that they don't care what you know until they know how much you care. It's not a cliche to say they'll remember how they made you feel. It's not a cliche to say the environment that you are in changes everything about it. So if you don't like being in room 207, if you don't like being on game 113, you can't learn. There's that TED Talk that went viral a few years ago that kids don't learn from people they don't like. Yeah, we could argue about the semantics of that, but in general terms, if it's not someone that respects them, it's not someone that makes them feel welcome, it's not so I have all of those kind of fingerprints in my daily work. Doesn't make me better than the teacher next door. It's just an approach that I have that has worked.
I don't think it makes you better than the teacher. It makes you special. Whether you understand it or not, this is probably the fourth or fifth wedding we've shared together from kids I've coached and kids you've taught, right? So I've always said, I believe the impact, and for me, it's in coaching, is when you stay involved with them way after their career is over. Well, for you, it's the same thing. Way after they've graduated from high school, they still think of you as that mentor and what you've done to change their life, how special you made them feel, because he did care about making us better. Joe, it brings me to my next question. You wanted to get 1% better. We always talked about that as far as coaching. Wow, just think if everyone on the roster committed to getting 1% better every day, by the end of the season, how good would this team be? Well, you then took that to a whole different level. And could you explain to the audience where 1% or how 1% better started, what it started as, and where you are today, because you're doing a lot of great things.
Thanks. And I think it connects with advice I have sometimes for young teachers. You would think being all in the classroom, just being, I don't like the word just, being an English teacher is enough, and it is enough. But actually, in the world of 2024-25, where teacher retention is harder than ever, where the challenges are everywhere, where technology is replacing parts of the job, I actually like and coach people on having something else so that when I go home, yeah, I'm thinking about Brad and Sheila and how I could have reached them better. But then I can pour myself into another professional creative pursuit, which has become the podcast and the consulting company. In 2014, my friend Kevin Wilson said, I think a podcast would be fun. Do you know anything about it? And I said, well, I listen to them on my commute. I love them. He's like, would you like to do one? Okay, why do you want to do it? Well, he's a hitting consultant and a baseball coach, and it might be an opportunity to help people and potentially drive business. Okay, I'll help you. We did, I think, 85 to 100 episodes of a podcast where we interviewed people like David Eckstein and umpires and scouts. And as that project neared its end, he kept pushing me out of the nest to say, like, you really should do your own thing. You don't just love baseball. You love wine and food culture and creativity and leadership. All true. On July 1st, 2017, I finally said yes. I'm about to launch it. It's all ready to go. I look and it says $7 a month to host the podcast. And I go, I'm out. Like, this is it. Like, I'm totally, I got to pay $7 a month on my own. Meanwhile, he's picking up the tab since 2014 on his end. Eric, I kid you not, that $7 bill and the fact that my wallet was in my car, not at my computer, was almost enough friction to stop, which is why when I coach people now, I'm like, we don't want any friction. We want to have it all ready to go here, now. Well, I'm just about to celebrate episode 300. I've updated the podcast logo. Business has come out of the podcast that I never expected because of a guest who said, hey, how'd I do on the show? And I said, hey, good, thanks. And he goes, no, can you coach me? And I said, I'll send you some notes. I sent him some notes. He says, what's your hourly rate? I said, to do what? I'm a teacher. Like, let's just work this out. He's like, no, I'm gonna pay you for your time. You're helping me build my brand. If I'm gonna make money, maybe you should be compensated. This is a whole new business. I just told you I'm coaching underpaid at a college, and I'm thrilled. I'm coaching, listen, teachers in Westchester County. No one feels sorry for them. They're getting paid well, but still, you don't have chance to advance your salary. You don't get bonuses, things like that. And now people want to pay me to come in and coach. This week, I just sent a proposal to a woman who is working at a company. The company wants to pay. I said, "What is this? The company wants to pay. It's different than Susie wanting to pay." So I thought, conversations with great people like you've been on the show, conversations with leadership experts like Annie Duke or James Clear or whoever, I thought that was enough. And it is. To some definitions, it is. But what I tell people is that when you do something creative, when you hit send, when you hit publish, like you're doing, I guarantee even someone like you, and you've never really mentioned this to me, someone like you who's incredibly passionate, incredibly connected, incredibly influential, I guarantee this podcast has brought people to you in relationship ways, in business ways, in fun laugh ways that you never expected. And that's what's happened to me. Like I'm zigging and zagging, not leaving the classroom, just following a passion project that, oh, by the way, connects me with great people and lets me impact others.
You put me on a panel. I think it was in COVID. I think it was during COVID. You put me on a panel with people like Jesse Cole, who started the Savannah Bananas. These aren't just normal, everyday people that you're in touch with, Joe. I mean, take us through some of the other guests you've had and authors and writers and why are they interested in you, Joe?
So true. Jesse Cole's a perfect example for people listening because I don't want to say the Savannah Bananas are blowing up because it's that same myth of the overnight success. They don't know Jesse was on the verge of bankruptcy, mortgaging his house, sleeping on an air mattress.
3 times he mortgaged his house. 3 times.
You talk about someone going all in, right? So they're having their moment. It's the 10-year overnight success and probably longer. But he was on the show. The head coach, Tyler Gillan, was on the show. Now, quick example. I got to a game last year. Guess what happened? Everybody and their brother wants tickets from me. I can't get you tickets. Right. You must have ticket questions coming to you all the time. I'm just trying to live my life. I'm just trying to impact people. But that's an example. I get to go there, get pictures with Jesse, get pictures with Tyler. The show The Bear right now on FX, which if there's ever a show that was made for me, I'm watching season 3. And no spoilers here. You'll never get spoilers from me. I'm watching season 3. And one of my guests is an actor on the show, prominently featured. I thought he was just a consultant for a book that was mentioned in season 2, which he was. Now he's on the show, and I'm like, dang, like that's Will. Like he's been on the show. I think about him. I think about Phil Hellmuth, the poker brat. People always like for his blow-ups. He goes, why don't you meet me in White Plains? I'm in White Plains. We have dinner, right? I'm not name dropping, but I'm trying to give an example. I am name dropping, but I'm not doing it. Hopefully people see that I'm not a total lunatic. I'm not going to say this to be self-deprecating. I'm saying this to be honest. Like, part of the idea of 1% Better is that if Joe Ferraro, English teacher, Division III baseball coach, part-time player at Division I Pace University, and thanks for mentioning that, we were D1, not 2 then. If I can do this with passion and creativity and know-how and want, maybe you don't want to do all this, but what could happen, right? What could happen if you walked in that direction? And, we can continue to name drop. I think James Clear is a big one because his book is literally the number 2 book on all of Amazon. We have thousands of people just making up stories about how they're an Amazon bestseller. Like, I'm an Amazon bestseller in Des Moines, Iowa for books about, beekeeping. No, James Clear has the number 2 book on Amazon. And he's been on the show, and like he's someone I'm connected with. Why? Because I hit send, I hit publish on a project, and I just kept working at it. And listen, I don't plan on stopping.
So here's my question for you. 26 years in, most teachers make it to 30 if they can. Are you that guy? Like, are you going to be 30 and done? Are you going to continue to do this, or do you get to 30 and say, now I really want to see what I can do more with 1%. Are you going to get involved in doing more projects on the side? What's next for you, Joe?
I think last year was the very first time I had any serious conversations with anyone about quote unquote retirement, which the word doesn't make sense anymore, right? It doesn't, my dad's 77. Is he retired? Like it doesn't make sense. Not for people like you and me and my dad. It's not the right word. I forget, maybe like refire instead of retire. I heard an author say that's kind of cool. So I have no strategy. I have no tactic, but I will say that people that are informed know that like you need to stay a certain amount of time for the back end pension type of stuff to make sense. It's not stuff I like to think about, but while I'm loving it, there's no reason for me to go anywhere. While I'm trying to grow, I'm not going anywhere. When I get to whatever that day is, I think I'm going to try to leave teaching the same way I left baseball. Not by being forced out, not by kicking someone out the door. When I left baseball coaching, you know this, the team was guaranteed almost to be better the next year. But I said I had enough. I made the impact. I want to do something else. I'm going to use the same model. If you say to me today, Joe, don't waffle. Just tell me what you're going to do. I'm going to try something else related to communications and coaching that's already in progress. I never thought of it that way. But the type of clients that are calling me up right now didn't see it coming, right? Like corporate client. Okay, I'm just an English teacher. Working with people who are going on panel interviews. I got a CEO who says, I'm going to Vegas to be on this conference. Can you coach me up? And then I get to see all the things that fire me up. I get to watch the panel host. I get to look at her past speaking. I get to say, you're going to meet with Brian on this panel. He's very talkative. So when he starts talking, it's almost like a form of modern media training. So I could easily see that type of thing. Last year I spoke to a school in Pennsylvania as a welcome back address. There's a lot of things that I've been, incredibly lucky, hard work, right? The residue of luck and hard work kind of deal. So I think that would be like, if you're a betting person, like that's where I would go once the 30 years is up.
You're blessed because people like me, I've been told several times I have the face for radio. You happen to have an unbelievable voice as well as the good looks. Everything is put together. You did mention very briefly your wine and food connoisseur connoisseurship, I'll call it. I have a story. I need to tell people this story. This is one of my favorite Joe Ferraro stories. One summer, Joe actually said yes to being my assistant coach. We take a team down by van. We have 13 smelly 15 and 16-year-olds in a Mercedes Sprinter driving down to Georgia. You can't imagine what that van smelled like. We get down there. We're playing teams from all over the East Coast. And we're in this unbelievable game. We're beating like Team Wilson. I want to say it's 3 or 4-0. Fourth inning, fifth inning, Joe's coaching first base. I turn around. Joe's in a heated discussion. It looked like a heated discussion with the first base umpire. And I turn around. I go, holy shit. Like nothing happened. What could he be talking about? Cruising with the umpire. I can't wait for the inning to be over. I go, Joe, what the hell was that all about? He goes, nothing, E. I just asked him, if you only had one meal down in Georgia, where would you go? And his answer was, Doug's. I'd go to Doug's Barbecue. This was one of the most fun summers I got to spend coaching, doing it with you, buddy.
I knew that story was coming. I can't refute a word of it other than potentially heated. I'm going to say enthusiastic. I really enjoyed Doug's. I don't know if you did or if you have any memory of it. I loved it. And one thing that I've really come accustomed to in this work now is taking stories that are real stories that actually have a larger lesson that you don't even see the lesson coming. And I swear to you, to this day, that's the type of question that I ask every day, whether it's food related or not. And when people who host podcasts or want to be better at communication ask me, like, what's a secret? What's a hack? What's a cheat code? I say to them, ask better questions. And that is an example of one. Because if I ask him a lazy question like, what's good around here? He may give me a list. He may give me we may die before the end of the conversation. Instead, I did say exactly what you quoted me. If you only had one night and you had to taste Georgia barbecue, where would you go? He can't waffle. He looks me in the eye and he says, Doug's. And we go to Doug's because of the questioning.
And Doug's did not disappoint. Doug's was amazing. Joe, listen to me. I don't want to get too emotional, but I want to thank you. I want to thank you for who you are to my children. You're special to all three of my children. You've always been special to me. Like I said, kind of like a little brother. Thank you for being here. Thank you for helping the community. Just thank you for being who you are. Thank you for spending time with us today. I really look forward to this for quite some time, and I love you, buddy.
I love you too, and I'd be remiss not to underline something that I know a lot of people probably feel, which is when you say thanks to me, it's amazing because so many people, and I put myself in that line, don't feel that we've done enough to say thank you to you. I had to work hard today, and I like my choice, to wear something that wasn't an article of clothing representing one of your kids' colleges. I'm looking at a baseball bat that's inscribed to my son. There are physical reminders of your generosity, and then there are stories that are always reminders of your generosity. And I know you're not satisfied. Otherwise, you wouldn't do a project like this. You wouldn't be thinking about the future, things like that. So it's incredibly satisfying to know that although true friends like us don't keep score, it's nice to know there's back and forth on the ledger, man. And I really, really appreciate it, and I love you.
I love you too. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us today on 90 Feet Away. Man, this was something I've been looking forward to. Thanks for sharing some time with us, and we'll see you again very soon.